Microsoft Entra as SAP IdM successor. The diagram, I would say, is quite simple. And this is also because the solution, I would say, is quite simple. When we take into consideration, of course, the modules of which this diagram is built. One of the modules is, of course, our ROIAM Entra plugin that I call just plug and play add-on, because it's really what it says it is. It's a plug and play where you can use for any kind of application you want to onboard into Entra. These Entra functionalities include, Entra is a suite. Actually, it's not just Entra like a service, but includes also workflows, graph, Azure storage, identity lifecycle, self-service, and so forth. And these logic apps, which you see at the bottom, actually are generic apps which take care of different functionalities from Microsoft Entra and facilitate the communication from Entra to our OEM solution on the SAP BTP cloud. The protocols we are using are, I would say, quite standard. SCIM, obviously, this is the standard for security communication. Second one, event. Events are the basis for an open architecture like the one we are also promoting in our product. And anyone who can actually trigger an event to ROIAM can also be a source for our system. And events are, you'll see later, something really, really simple in terms of data structure, in terms of how you can actually publish an event. That's not really complex at all. The target systems we're going to connect are Salesforce, S4HANA, and SAP IS, whereas you can see the S4HANA system actually is going through the cloud connector because this is an on-premise system. And to be frank, probably all of you already still have on-premise systems, although SAP would like to have it otherwise with pushing everybody to the cloud. Okay, then let's jump into the presentation itself. Christo, take it away.
Thank you, Tudor. Hello, everyone. My name is Christo Patsev, and I will present our Microsoft Entra implementation with ROI iAM. So to illustrate what Tudor has explained, we will begin by provisioning a user from SAP SuccessFactors to Microsoft Entra. As you can see, the user already exists in SuccessFactors. It's Sunbird, but the user has not been yet provisioned into Microsoft Entra. The default connector that handles the provisioning between the two systems runs every 40 minutes. This is a fixed interval and cannot be changed. That's why we will run it on demand. So let's now go ahead and quickly provision this user into Entra. It will take a few seconds. Okay, the user is now provisioned into Entra. Because the user has a predefined department value in SuccessFactors, the user will be automatically added to a dynamic group. This group, in turn, places the user within the scope of a lifecycle workflow for onboard a new employee. Let's quickly check the group membership of this user. Sometimes it takes a while. It takes a few seconds for the group membership to be assigned. Okay, as you can see, the group already appeared here. Well, this group in turn, as I said, will put the user within the scope of a lifecycle workflow. Let's go to this lifecycle workflow. The workflow that we use, this one, has a custom extension added as a task. This task triggers a logic app to send an asynchronous request to ROIAM for provisioning this user into two target applications. And the two target applications are SAP GRC and Salesforce. Here you can see the custom task. This lifecycle workflow is also scheduled to run at fixed intervals with a minimum frequency of 1 hour. That's why we will also need to run it manually. So let's go ahead, find the user and start the provisioning process. So right now, ROIAM determines where the user needs to be provisioned based on the group to which the user belongs. The group is associated with the two target systems, which are defined as applications. Let me just quickly show you what I mean. Let's find the group again. And if you come to the applications, as you can see, those two apps are the represent the target apps that we want to provision the user to. And those two applications also have the group, the sales team group, with a designated assigned row in each application. So knowing this information or having this configuration, we use Microsoft Graph to extract all the relevant data of this user and to put it into a JSON payload that we send to ROI iAM via a logic app. So let me just quickly show you the logic apps that we use. Basically, the logic apps in our setup send event-based asynchronous requests in JSON format. They facilitate the provisioning from Microsoft Entra to ROI iAM. And once configured, they don't require adjustment from clients because they're designed to work universally with all target applications. So I'm going to quickly show you a few of them. So the task that we just triggered uses this ROI provisioning, and as you can see, it has been already successfully completed. And this is how it looks like. This one is relatively simple. It has a few actions and a few calculations. So let's now jump to Salesforce and log in with this user, log in with the user, but to check whether the user that we provisioned is already here. Okay. As you can see, the user appears to be provisioned. Yep, the user is already here. Sunbird is provisioned, and if you come and check the assignment, the row that comes with predefined row that we wanted to assign is also appearing here. The subscription management tax admin is already assigned. So now let's do the same for SAP GRC and check whether the user is also here. Okay. And as you can see, Sunbird is also provisioned into GRC. This is the time when the user was provisioned, and this was a couple of seconds ago. And now when we go to the rows, and the row that was also predefined in the workflow appears to be also attached to this user. So now what we would like to do is now, since the user is already provisioned, what we want to do is log in with this user and self-request an additional row. So let me just quickly reset this user's password because it's completely new user. And I will log in with this user and use the self-service request page provided by Microsoft Entra to basically request an additional row. And we're in the My Access page. This user, again, brand new user, has here all the roles that we have provisioned earlier. We have several applications that we have already onboarded here. And let's say we want to request an additional row into the GRC. This is the repository we use for GRC. We will show you that a bit later. And now that I request this row, here it is. Now I will jump back to my screen. And I will go to my access page portal because the row that we just requested requires an approval. And since I am added as approver for this user, I will need to quickly go ahead and approve it. we go ahead and approve it. You can play a lot with the details, provide a justification, set the time frame for the approval, and then just submit. Now that I have submitted it, what will happen is another logic app will kick in. We'll start and we'll send this request to ROI iAM, and ROI iAM will check whether this user already exists in the target application, and if it does, it will only assign the role. And if the user doesn't exist there, ROI iAM will only attach the new role. So let's jump back to GRC. And as you can see, the second role also appeared here. So we managed to not only provision the user with a predefined role, but also self-request an additional role. Now I will quickly hand over to Todor, who will walk you through a specific configuration in ROI iAM, which will allow us to provision a user, not to provision user, but to onboard an entirely new application into Microsoft Entra and to perform its initial load. Back to you, Todor.
Thank you, Christo. That was really, really impressive. So now let's see how actually this could look like, and I'll give you a very sneak peek into the UI of ROIAM, because that's what Christo required me to do. Let me share. Okay, so what he asked me to do actually is to enable a repository that was already onboarded, and I'll just go to the system landscape, and practically I can see that my ROI test, which is connected to an IPS proxy, is disabled. So what I need to do is just enable it for the target and same way for the source. Okay, I'll explain a little bit later when we come to the product what that means. So Christo, back to you.
Thank you, Todor. As I said, we will now provision and we will now onboard an entirely new application. And let me quickly show you the application that we would like to onboard. It is SAP IS. As you can see here, we have two rows that we would like to also onboard in Microsoft Entra along with the users that already exist there. There are a few steps that need to be done just once. Initially, they need to be completed. For the purpose of this demo, we have already done them. And the first one is obviously creating an enterprise app that serves as a repository for applications, roles, and assignments. And as you can see, this application doesn't have any assignments here. And if you come to the rows of this application, app rows, those two rows that we want to provision, that we want to onboard, that I showed you in IS are not here yet. Additionally, another very important step for this configuration to work is to create a catalog for the access packages. Each access package represents a row for specific application. And as you can see here, again, we have already created the catalog for this repository, and currently it has 0 access packages. And if you take a look at this one here, it has 1019 access packages or 1019 rows. This was the GRC that we showed you earlier. So what we would like to do now is start the provisioning process. Again, we use logic app. This logic app can run on schedule. You can play with it however you need to. In this case, of course, we will also run it on demand. So let's go ahead. So this logic app is relatively simple, but let me show you the logic app that actually does the onboarding. Yeah, this one is a bit more complex. It has more actions and more calculations, but in general, it handles the scenario quite well in conjunction with ROI iAM. So now let's go back to Microsoft Entra. What happens actually? What the logic app does is it queries ROI iAM and ask what roles exist there. And once ROIAM replies and provides this data, the logic app will create the roles. It will also go ahead and create access packages for each row. It will also assign a policy for those access packages. You can play a lot with the policies, whether you want an approval, whether all sorts of details you can think of, they can be adjusted. And after that, ROIAM will also provide information about the users who exist in the target application and the users who have assignments. And the logic app will go ahead and also reflect them in Microsoft Entra. And as you can see, the two rows are already here, they appeared. And if we go back to the access packages, it's very important to have the access packages, otherwise the users cannot self-request a row, and the administrators also can come from here and assign packages. As you can see, the access packages are also present here. Let's quickly jump to the users, and you will see the users who have already some assignments. You might ask what about the users who exist in the target app but don't have any assignments yet? They will not appear here. For this one, well, first of all, they're provisioned in Microsoft Entra, but we went a step further and we created a group that will be automatically populated, and each user that exists in the target application will be added there as member. And this way you will have an overview of all the users that exist in the target app and also the users who have some assignment already attached to them. Of course, the target app name is the same. The group is the same as the enterprise application. And here you have all the users. So what we would like to do now is, from administrative point of view, request an additional role for a user in IIS. So let's go to the access package. Let's request let's say this role and assign it to the user that we created initially from SuccessFactors. We select the policy. Again, this policy can be customized. We find our Sunbird user, and this time we want to bypass the approval, so we don't have to approve it. And again, this will trigger the communication between Entra and ROIAM, and the request will be sent to ROIAM. ROIAM will then assign the role for this user into SAP IIS. So let's now quickly jump to SAP IIS. And as you can see, the Sunbird user should appear. It's already here. And here it is. This is also the group. Yeah, so this is how we provision a user from SuccessFactors, and we take this user and provision it also into target applications. Basically, we managed to enhance and improve the functionality of Microsoft Entra with the help of, not just with the help, but thanks to ROIAM. So this is for me. Back to you, Todor.
Thank you, Christo. This was really, I would say, quite entertaining, and it was really something that probably most of you were just thinking that it's possible, but actually nobody's seen it live.